Morning everyone, day 15. Was no video on day 14, that was just a 0 in Duncannon. So I'm walking out of Duncannon today, A+ hiker town. Everyone is very friendly. Stayed at the Doyle Hotel. It's an old building, 1905, so it doesn't have central air or heat. So it was a little chilly last night, but that's fine. But just they had food and they had live music every night I was there. It was that's a good spot. Everyone's very friendly in this town. From Goodies, which was the breakfast restaurant, post office. Everybody was really nice. So goal today is 11 point something miles to the Peters Mountain Shelter. It is raining, but the rain is supposed to die off later today. But then the big rain is coming in tomorrow. And the big issue is that if I get to the Peters Mountain Shelter, then there is no other shelters. The next shelter is 18 miles. There are no campsites with water before that. So I might get sort of stuck in a rainstorm tomorrow. Some people were gonna 0 2 more days, but just taking 3 whole days off, I don't know. Doesn't seem like I'd just get anywhere. So there's a certain amount of rain that you're just gonna have to hike through, and so that's what I'm telling myself, but we'll see if I regret that decision. But anyway, we'll catch up with you up the trail. All right, everybody, we're still climbing that first big climb out of Duncannon. I think I've got about 300 feet up left to go. This is kind of what the trail looks like. It is a long climb, but it is at least switchbacked. However, it is pretty rocky. So kind of wet. Everything's wet. We're in the clouds. But I'll let you know when we get to the top. All right, everybody, we are on top of the ridge. Seem to be passing through some sort of burn area. Still smells sort of like a forest fire. So I know there has been several mountain fires in this area, so this may be a relatively fresh one. But anyway, we're on top of the ridge. Still pretty rocky, but only 5.2 to go to the shelter, so I'll catch up with you there. Okay, everyone, we have reached Peters Mountain Shelter. It is a very large shelter, double-decker, can sleep quite a few hikers in here. It's gonna start raining around midnight. I don't know, it's maybe 5:30, something like that. So I'm gonna get unpacked and we'll catch up with you for a wrap up. All right, everybody, day 16, absolutely pouring rain. 18 miles to Roush Gap Shelter. No other shelters before that. Potential bailout point at PA 325. May call a shuttle. This is borderline stupid. So I'm gonna put the phone away. Probably won't film much today. Let's just hope we make it. All right, everybody, let's give you a quick update. So we started on Saturday here in Duncannon, 1149.9. Big climb up in the rain, but it was switchbacked. Once we got onto the ridge, wasn't terrible walking. Made it the 11 miles to Peters Mountain Shelter. It was a very large shelter. There were 3 other Thru hikers there that night. Thunderstorms definitely rolled in. Pretty violent thunderstorms. Started out on Sunday, perhaps against my better judgment. Right, the issue was, as you can see, there's no shelters before 18 miles, no campsites with water before 18 miles. We were already up on the ridge. That's the good news, right? But by the time I got to PA 325, I knew I was in trouble before that point. I had tried to call one shuttle service. They were unavailable. I had texted another trail angel, but by the time I got to PA 325, I did not have cell phone service. So I didn't get a response from that trail angel in time. And so I had a choice. I could either walk 12 miles back on trail to try to get to the next shelter, but that I was already struggling to open granola bar wrappers and just fasten the buckles on my pack, and so I was worried a little bit. So what I ended up doing was walking 6 miles west on PA 325 till I received a cell phone signal, and I basically hired an Uber to take me to Pine Grove, Pennsylvania, and that's where I'm at the Comfort Inn. So after thinking on it, I have decided to end my through hike attempt. Now there is a common phrase, don't quit on a bad day. I sort of took the alternative path of quit on such a miserable day that the memory will be so visceral for the rest of your life that you'll never regret your decision. But in total, I did 141.8 miles of the trail. That's approximately 6.5% of the trail. So by the numbers, that's a failure. There's no way of getting around that. Right, I also mentioned in an earlier video, right, it was a goal of mine to finish the trail, right, and so by the standards I set for myself, that's also a fail. But that doesn't mean I'm internalizing the failure, right? Just because I failed at this particular task, I don't feel like a failure as a person. So a natural question is, why did I quit? Well, I'm physically uninjured. It's not a physical issue, right? And I really enjoyed the hiking aspect of the Appalachian Trail experience, right? I really enjoyed moving under my own power, right, from point A to point B. What I really struggled with was the camping aspect, right? I really underestimated how hard living outside is. So when I got to camp at the end of the day, right, I was just sort of smashed, and it was a real struggle for me to, set up the tent and unpack everything and try to, cook dinner and choke down food and filter water. Or in the mornings, maybe were even worse because I was sort of in your warm sleeping bag, right? And you should get up, but you sort of don't want to get out of bed because you're warm in that instant, but you know that you're going to have to, put on wet, stinky clothes from the night before. You're going to have to tear down a wet, muddy tent. And so I was just often it didn't really matter where I was at, but I was often sort of just almost left motionless in sort of a shell-shocked state when I was at camp. So I think I was pretty open with my struggles in my videos, and I would receive a lot of messages like, you can do this. And my response, at least in my head, was, yes, I can physically do this. I believe I have the physical tools that it takes to hike the Appalachian Trail. But in my head, I was thinking, yeah, I can do this, but I'm not sure I really want to. And I know that explanation sounds strange. But the best way I can explain it is that there's a TV show called Alone. And so that's a show where, people that have primitive survival skills get dropped off at various places in the wilderness, and basically the last man standing wins, right? And so they have to hunt and fish and trap for their food and that kind of thing. And so all of them, right, if you watch that show, have the necessary, primitive skills, right? And if they get interviewed before they leave, and they're all pumped up, and they all think, oh yes, I have the mental toughness, I'm going to be the last person standing, right? But inevitably, each season, within a day or two, multiple participants are going to drop out, and they're going to cite reasons like loneliness or whatever. And if you're like me, when you watch that, you think, wow, that sort of, or they talk about missing their wife or their kids or whatever. And it's easy to accuse those people of basically rationalizing failure. And in my head, I would be thinking, well, what did you expect? You signed up for this, right? You knew what you were getting into. How can you sort of be surprised about what you were getting into? And now after this experience, I sort of realized that, well, maybe when you're just doing something so big and so unusual that it's just very difficult to know how you're going to respond until you actually undertake that experience. So in the Peters Mountain Shelter, on what turned out to be my last night on trail, there were 3 other through hikers in that shelter, and one of them was 24 miles away from finishing. And he kept talking about how he didn't want the trip to end. So he has 2 kids, but he just didn't want to go home. And I kept thinking, wow, I'm the exact opposite, right? I'm not out here trying to escape anything, right? My goal was to try to, learn something about my most authentic self so that I could be a better version of myself wherever I was, including home. So sure, for me, there's a little bit of embarrassment, right? In seeing, having coworkers or, my students or the internet in general, seeing me fail at a task. And I would have liked to have raised more money for college scholarships. But overall, I'm proud of the physical effort that I put forth, right? I'm proud of the videos I made. I'm proud of the community that we've created here. in this moment, I'm just really looking forward to getting home, right? If anything, this trip reminded me how much I love my wife and how happy I am with the life we've created, right? I found myself missing the small moments, right? Being out when she and I and the dog are out in the barn with the horses doing chores, right? On a warm summer evening, that kind of thing, right? I miss the small moments, and maybe it takes, something difficult to really remind me uh, of how great my life is, and that's something that I hope that appreciation sticks with me for a very, very long time. So what is next for this channel? Well, I don't really know. I still like adventure, right? I will continue to do adventures, and I'm open to posting videos about those adventures, but they just might not be about long distance backpacking. I still think my videos can be useful to future thru hikers. So we know that 75 to 80% of people that attempt a thru hike quit, but uh, those people tend to not write books, right? And even the vloggers that quit tend to just stop posting, right? And so very few people post sort of an I quit video that kind of explains that. And so you're left wondering, right? They just stop posting, and you're like, well, what happened, right? What was the reason? What was the rationale? And so I think what you're left with is sort of a survivorship bias, right? You're only getting the perspective of people that had the physical strength and the sort of, necessary mental wiring that allowed them to make it the whole distance of the trail. And so I think I'm somewhat of an outlier, right? In that I met many, many, many hikers and many thru hikers, and I was the only thru hiker that was employed. So every other thru hiker that I met was either A, just graduated high school, or B, graduated college, C, had quit their job, sometimes selling their house or whatever, or D, had just retired. And so almost everyone that I met was a thru hiker. In fact, everyone I met that was a thru hiker was in some sort of huge life transition, and that wasn't the case for me, right? I'm sort of, in a stable situation, and I don't know, maybe that made the back home more tempting. I don't really know, right? But perhaps my experiences in these videos can help sort of combat that survivorship bias that you see out there on YouTube and in books. I apologize if this video is somewhat of a stream of consciousness. The emotions are still pretty raw. This is certainly an unceremonious video recorded on the bed of a room in a comfort inn. I will include a quote from Alan Watts at the beginning of this video. So for a message for future Deep End, although others might find it useful as well, remember, go out and look at that Alan Watts YouTube video for Life is Not a Journey. So remember, the aim is not to arrive at the destination, right? View life as a musical analogy, right? And the aim is to dance while the music is playing. I think I did that, right? I will continue to try to dance while the music is playing. So again, if you're not familiar with that quote, go ahead and take a look at the Alan Watts Life is Not a Journey YouTube video. It's fantastic. Message to all my viewers, thank you very much for your support. It really meant a lot to me as I went through this adventure. Good luck on your own adventures. Let me know if I can help. But for now, this is Deep End signing off.
If you enjoyed this video, I would ask two things. First, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Those actions help us grow the community so that we can put more good out into the world. Second, when I'm not out on an adventure, I am a college professor. A college education can be transformative, but college is an expensive proposition. However, I think we can help, so I'm asking you to please donate to support scholarships for students at the Sam M. Walton College of Business at the University of Arkansas. There are two ways you can navigate to the donation page. First, you can scan the QR code that you see on the screen. Please have cookies enabled in your browser. The second method is to navigate to the URL that you see on the screen or in the description to this video. When you arrive at that page, what should you see? Well, you will be on the online giving website for the University of Arkansas. You should notice that the designation and the other department, program, or fund fields are automatically populated. That's going to tell the fundraising personnel to automatically associate any funds raised with our effort here on this channel. All you have to do is enter an amount and your personal information. I will keep you up to date with our fundraising progress as we move through the adventure. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you on the next video.